Hello, welcome to Pre-Technical Mathematics. This lecture video is on the laws of exponents, Chapter 1, Section 3. There will be two parts to Section 3. The first one will be on the exponents, and the second one will be on radicals, or roots. Now, exponents is going to come up again in the next math course. Here in Chapter 1, we're just going to give you a simple introduction to it. Let's take a look at some of the rules. Okay, when you're multiplying two numbers with exponents, you add them. That's a little hard to see, but that's m plus n. When you take an exponent and you raise it to an exponent, you multiply them. When you have numbers inside of parentheses, you can distribute that exponent inside the parentheses. Same with division. You can distribute that exponent inside the parentheses. Here's a little thing that happens here with the number 1 when you distribute that number inside the parentheses. 1 raised to any number still remains as 1. Alright, now here's a very important one. When we have a fraction of an exponent divided by an exponent, we subtract the exponents. When we have a number raised to 0, it's always 1. And this one down here on the end is probably a very important one. B raised to a negative exponent puts it in the denominator of the fraction as a positive exponent. So whenever we have a negative sign in front of an exponent, you flip it. If it's on the top and it's negative, you put it on the bottom as positive. If it's on the bottom as negative, you put it on the top as positive. We'll see examples of that. Alright, you may want to make a copy of some of these rules to help you with some of the problems. We'll get into those now. Alright, here we have a fraction raised to a negative 2. Well, the first thing I like to do is I like to get rid of these negative signs. So, to get rid of that negative sign, what did we say we needed to do? Flip it, right? So this becomes 5/3 raised to the second. Okay, the denominator went into the numerator went into the denominator. And now I have a positive exponent. So this can be split up. 5 squared over 3 squared becomes 25 over 9. Okay, moving right along. Here's a problem with an exponent raised to an exponent. when we raised an exponent to an exponent, what did we do with the exponents? Multiply them. Good. So we have 5 raised to the 7th times 3, which equals 5 raised to the 21. Now we don't have to take that any further for this section. Now we have a fraction raised to an exponent. Remember, we can distribute this exponent in, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to say a to the 5th over b. Now we've got an exponent raised to an exponent. We keep it in the denominator, but when we raise an exponent to an exponent, we multiply the exponents. So what we end up with is a to the 5th over b to the 15th. So far, so good? Okay, let's erase this. Get to our next problem. Okay. Here's a little more difficulty. Now, there are two ways of looking at this. What you're doing with exponents that are divided by exponents is you're subtracting them, remember? So this would be 4 minus 1. Okay? So what I would have is x to the 3rd. 4 minus 1. Now, in the y, sometimes you are taught this minus process. So in this case, you would have 1 minus 3. Then you'd end up with a y to the negative 2, y to the 1 minus 3 equals y to the negative 2. Then we have to worry about this negative sign. Okay, what a little process that may make this a little easier is if you just subtract them and put what's left where it is. So I have 1 here and I have 3 here, which means I have 2 left on the bottom. 1 here, 3 here. I have 2 left on the bottom. Now let's do the same thing with b. I have 2 up here, 5 down here. If I subtract them, I end up, what is left, oh, I'm sorry, is b to the 3rd. So now, instead of having minus exponents and having to switch them around, I simply have what I need on top and what I need on bottom. So you're putting what's left where it is. Let's see if we've got another one like that to bring that a little clearer. Let's see what we've got. Okay. Alright, now you know I hate these negatives. So what's the first thing we're going to do? Invert it, right. So we have y second over 4x to the third. And now that is raised to the second. Okay, what do we do when we have an exponent raised to an exponent? Multiply them. So we have y to the fourth. Now don't forget about this fourth. Remember, all of this is raised to the second. So 4 raised to the second is actually 16. Exponents raised to an exponent, we multiply them, so we have x to the sixth. And that's our answer. Not happy that I didn't give you another one with canceling exponents, but let's see what you can do. Here's a simple problem for you to try. The answers are located in the course information on the website. Pause the video if you need to work on the problem. Here's the next problem. Don't worry so much about what this strange letter is. Just consider it an F. But what do you do when you multiply exponents? Here's another one. Here's a fraction raised to an exponent. Here's a fraction with an exponent in it. Now watch this little negative sign. What do you do with that negative sign? Okay, I'm going to help you with this one. This is what we were talking about with putting what's left down. So we have p to the third on top and p to the 4 on the bottom. We have an extra p, the 3's cancel out, and we have an extra p on the bottom. So let's put that p down on the bottom. We have q to the 4th. We don't have any q's on the bottom, so we'll leave that 4. Now we have r2 and r2. That cancels each other out. So our answer is q to the 4th over p. Gives you a little bit more of an example of what we're doing there with putting where the most is. Here's another one. And this concludes this video lecture on the laws of exponents. There is another portion to this section, so look for that video too.